You're listening to the Rewrite the Rules podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Harriet.
I'm Beth.
And I'm Natalie.
You want to work towards achieving true food and body image freedom, you are in the right place.
Rewrite the Rules podcast is your survival guide to letting go of harmful societal expectations and unlearning any unhelpful beliefs that are stopping you from having a healthy and loving relationship with food and yourself.
Our mission is to help you feel heard, understood, and empower you to step out of the box and rewrite your rules so you can live life on your terms. Thank you for tuning in.
Hello, guys.
Hi, everyone. You have all three of us today.
Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff Girls are back. I don't think we've ever told anyone that our girl group is called the Powerpuff Girls.
Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, we haven't actually.
Secrets out. But it's so good to be back on this episode. So welcome back, everyone, to episode 16, where I will be joining Natalie and Beth as we continue the conversation about extreme hunger and binge eating. So you girls absolutely rocked the last episode. I really enjoyed listening to it. It feels like I've been away for ages, but I've only missed one episode. So yeah, I'm excited to be part of part 2.
If you haven't already listened to part 1, then please go back and listen. But how did you enjoy the listener experience, Harriet?
Yeah, it was exactly how you said when you listened to the podcast of just me and Natalie. It really just felt so conversational and chill and friendly and warm. It was so lovely. It felt like I was in the room with you. So I really hope our listeners feel like that as well, because that's honestly the vibe that I got.
I'm so happy to hear that. So yes, today we are bringing you part 2, all about extreme hunger and restriction through recovery, and speaking about why you may be experiencing these things and giving you helpful tips and tricks on how to improve them.
As always, this is coming from our own experience, and we hope that this can provide you with ideas and tips that you can put into practice alongside, your recovery. And we hope that we can give you some hope that, the outcome of your recovery is just going to be inner happiness, which it so is, is what you all deserve. Shall we go on to discuss why you may be experiencing extreme hunger and binges through recovery?
Absolutely. Yeah. So extreme hunger is literally a biological response to food deprivation, and it's a completely normal phase to go through when you allow your body to recover and you allow your body to refuel itself. But obviously people will experience this to completely different degrees. It's your body playing catch up. It doesn't have to be months or years of being deprived. This could literally start because of a few weeks of just your body feeling somewhat starved. Your metabolism speeds up, your digestion speeds up, meaning more of the hunger hormone ghrelin is released, meaning the body's hunger signals are essentially all over the place.
I think it's really important as well that you're actually showing everyone that this is a biological response. Like, this is proven. This isn't just something that has occurred and, it's something that you think shouldn't be happening to you. This is a normal follow-on from extreme restriction.
It's just not spoken about enough, so people think that the problem lies with them personally. I also think, especially in recovery, when people start eating more but then they are still experiencing this extreme hunger, it can feel really confusing, and especially because extreme hunger can also be driven by mental restriction as well, and there's mental starvation. I think it can be really confusing for people to understand what is going on, so I definitely think this is a really important topic to talk about.
Just as you said there, Harriet, the other reason that you could be experiencing extreme hunger is because you're not just physically restricted and starving, you're also mentally restricted and starving. So when you talk to someone with said normal eating habits, when they say I'm hungry, that's just your normal hunger. That's kind of just physical hunger, because they probably allow themselves food when they want it. They don't think of food maybe in the way that we have come to think about food if we are restricting. We're different because not only are we physically restricted and extremely hungry, also our brain has come to believe that we aren't going to feed ourselves. You're mentally restricted and your mind and your body have to catch up with each other. So you may be physically feeding yourself, but your brain is still thinking that it's going to experience restriction maybe tomorrow or maybe the next day. So your brain is saying, I need to eat this food, I need to get as much as I can in, because I'm sure this isn't what normally happens. You don't normally feed me regularly like this. So that's another thing to remember, that just letting your mind and your body sort of catch up with each other, and that can take some time.
Especially like putting on top of that as well, the fact that you've possibly been ignoring your hunger cues and ignoring your satiety cues, that can take time and work to actually get back in touch with those cues, because you haven't experienced this for a very long time. And that's the harm of these, what we think is very innocent, small little diets here and there. Or I haven't done it for a very long period of time, or I'm not in too big of a deficit and things like that. Yes, your body may not feel physically starved, but the second your brain realizes we're on a diet, we're going to cut this and this out, we're going to consume less, that is the beginning of like mental starving. And that like mental hunger can just be as powerful as physical hunger at times.
I think a really easy way to understand it is that there's just this imbalance of trust between your brain and your body. I feel like your brain often thinks it's being really clever and I'm going to pump loads of adrenaline into the system so that he or she is more hungry, because we just don't know whether they're going to feed me today. So let's just pump more of that hunger hormone into the body and then job done. So your brain is just trying to get back on side with you and rebuild this trust with you. Literally think of it like you had an argument with a friend and there was distrust. And how would you build that trust back up? It takes time. It doesn't just happen overnight. You need to make sure you're both communicating with each other, you're both listening to each other, you're playing by the rules for this period, just so that you can build that trust back up.
You're trying to repair a relationship, aren't you, in every aspect?
And it really is the most important relationship between your mind and your body, is about connecting those two states back up.
It's such a nice way to put it, and it really explains it so well. You know, just think of your mind and your body as you would a friendship with someone that you really care about. Yourself is the person that you should care about the most.
And that's why when you're ignoring hunger cues, it is the same as when a friend is saying, hey, can you help me with this? And you just say no, or just not even saying anything. You don't always think that you're doing harm, but I think it's important to, if it's like repeated behavior and you know that this hasn't worked in the past, restricting and extreme dieting. So remembering that if you do it again, you're probably going to get the same outcome and it's going to still be as harmful. But I do appreciate that. The first time you don't think you're necessarily doing harm, and especially when you're being told, see something on social media that's encouraging you to go on a diet or, you know, eat in a certain way, restrict certain foods and saying it's okay, then you may just think it's completely fine. Once you realize you've learned that lesson that it's not, then it's really important to learn from that.
That's the thing with like social media. It's very good at reframing and repackaging these sorts of restrictive diets, taking something like a diet from the 1980s, putting a nice pretty little bow on it, re-advertising it to you in a different way, and you thinking, well, this isn't a diet, this isn't what it was, this is balance, this is me finding my food freedom. So like, don't be hard on yourself when you're trying to get yourself out of this and trying to move onto things that you think is maybe more balanced and maybe a better approach. And then in reality, I think unless you've got the perspective that I think us guys now have, where we are very good at stepping back and being like that's what's the phrase?
One in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, exactly that.
What does that
like
mean?
Trying to be something else.
Oh.
But you can see it for what it is. With like this extreme hunger as well, this is why it's so important to be kind to yourself and to be forgiving, and don't be disheartened at the first hurdle, because I remember how disheartening it felt when I was like really making an effort to eat more, really pushing my boundaries in every aspect, trying to make a positive change, and then still being left with what felt like an endless pit in my stomach. And it's so disheartening, and you're just thinking, I'm doing the wrong thing, like I need to be trying something else. You need to try it consistently over time and know that this is normal, because that's what I initially thought, and this is why I'm so glad we're talking about this today, because I just thought, oh my god, I do have an endless pit and I'm never going to be fixed, and I'm never going to be what I perceived as like normal at the time. After sticking to it, obviously everything's like, I've completely found that balance now, but don't be too disheartened and just keep at it.
Absolutely. Because I think a lot of the times we think that our symptoms are forever and ever and ever. But actually, in reality, it's actually only a short period of time. Because I've worked with clients on this. It's really distressing when you're like, I'm just always hungry. And you just have to remember that it does fade. Once that trust is reestablished, then you will start feeling like you're eating quote unquote normally again. Whereas you're hungry, you eat, then you're satisfied. And then you can move on.
Do we want to move on to why you may still be binging and give some explanations and then some tips and tricks?
Yeah, so with binges, we've talked about how it can really make you feel demotivated in your recovery, but they happen. And if they do, I just think, remember, you're already dealing with the feelings of this binge. To add guilt onto it, there is just no need. It's happened. Just stop for a second, let the guilt go. Just let it go and try and figure out what happened before, what you were feeling before. Journal that. It's just a learning experience. That's all it is. But there can be absolutely no rhyme or reason as to why that binge happens sometimes. The thing is that you have kept this habit of binging up for a very, very long time. It's been with you. And I know that I felt like that. Like I explained in the last episode, I felt like it had almost like it was become part of me. And it's very odd to feel like there's something that you really don't want to do, but you feel a little bit like, it feels weird now, I don't do that. So you've got to remember, it isn't miraculously just meant to stop overnight. You don't have to put that pressure on yourself. No matter what some other people's experiences may be, some other people's experience, like Beth, your experience was completely different to mine, but that's absolutely fine. And just remember that this is a habit. It takes time to reform those habits to new ones. So just take that pressure off yourself.
Natalie, something you're really good at is taking away the distress when it comes to binge eating. I think it doesn't have to be this huge distressing thing. It can just be an okay, you binged. Why did you binge? Now let's move on. It doesn't have to be this massive thing that we make it out to be.
I think it comes with everything, doesn't it? And I think it comes from us all going through it. In the end, you just get exhausted. And I think it's everything. If you feel bloated and the feeling that you used to get when you used to literally make yourself feel awful because why have you bloated, or you look in the mirror and you feel like, oh, I don't feel like I used to feel in this outfit. In the end, you just think, do you know what? I can't be bothered. I'm only punishing myself, and no one else is being affected by this. No one else cares. It's only me. So just letting go of it. And I know it's easier said than done. I just think it takes a long time, doesn't it? It takes a long time to get there. But when you finally can just be like, deep breath, move on. I try and do that with everything in my life.
But it's so true, because people are equating binge eating to the world crumbling. And I don't want to take away the perceived and personal distress that you get from binge eating. Obviously, if you struggle with binge eating, I understand that you want to stop, obviously. But I think being kind of catastrophizing it makes it worse and makes it harder for you. And I think people get really confused by this, because I think people think that you have to make a big deal out of something in order to be motivated to do something about it. But actually practicing this acceptance and kind of just being nonchalant about it and being not bothered can actually make you calm, and then you can have more clarity. Then you can actually evaluate what actually just happened there and how do I stop that happening from the future in a calmed way. And that is the most effective way to stop binge eating, as opposed to being so manic about it.
Yeah, it's so true, because when you have such high levels of stress, it's like anything. Sometimes I react and I'm like, I literally goes to the end of the spectrum of being really, really stressed and nothing gets done. I will sit there for 2 hours and I'll be like, well, nothing got solved there. Whereas if I just think, right, like you say, clarity comes from being calm. You're going to be able to solve whatever's troubling you way, way quicker when you just stop for a second.
Yeah. Can I just quickly share a quick story, a client story? Natalie, it was one of our clients from late last year. Basically, and still now we're all working with each other. So I do the therapy, these beautiful girls do coaching. But one of our clients, Natalie, she told me how she binged. She was so distressed, so distraught. She messaged you and you just came back as this most calming energy. And I think you said something like, it's fine. And then the client said back to me that she was like, oh yeah, it's fine. And she was fine again. And she was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. And that's why I just absolutely believe so much in coaching and therapy, especially these two support systems combined, because being able to have someone that you can message straight after and get a quick response, a reassuring response, is just so powerful, and it just saves you time. I didn't mean to just plug our services there, but
I love true. That though. That's made me so happy, and I think it is having that outsider's opinion. They are completely detached from your situation. So like they're not as invested, of course they're invested because they're your coach, but they're not catastrophizing this situation as you are. They can see it for what it is. And the fact of the matter is, there's no undoing it. It doesn't need to be undone. This is there for a reason, although you may not think it is and you want it not to have happened. The more you try and undo it, the more you're going to stress yourself out. So just take it for what it is and learn from it and move on. But I loved that. Thank you for telling me that.
No, of course.
I definitely think like negative energy does snowball though. I mean, we've all got people in our lives that sort of balance us out as people in every situation, whether it's you as a person or your relationship with food. Like, we all seek support in different aspects. What's so important about talking about this is also like dismantling the shame and the embarrassment that is attached to binge eating, because I think that's the embarrassment of it, and the shame and the feeling of failure often outweighs the mentality of like, oh, what, my body's changing, like I've gone so many days without binging, blah, blah, blah. I think just like the embarrassment and the shame, they think everyone's going to look at them and think, oh, they failed. And I definitely remember feeling like that until I sort of realized exactly what you said, Harriet. It doesn't matter, we've got to move on. And I think learning to see every day as like its own separate day. I used to categorize things into weeks. I was like, if one little thing happened that was like negative, my whole week was like mentally written off. I was just like, that's just a crap week and we're just going to move on to the next week. Until I sort of stopped, like wait until Monday to start again. Every time I woke up in the morning, I'd be like, right, it's a fresh slate today. Whatever happened yesterday is gone now. And then digging deeper into that, and even just being like, right, if you've binged in the morning at breakfast time, it doesn't mean that whole day is gone either. And just seeing like every hour as like a reset.
Can I share a really good tip on if anything happens in your day that you feel has really disrupted your day? So let's say you binge eat in the morning and you don't want it to affect the rest of your day. Take a shower, wash your face. If you can, wash your hair as well, like really cleanse and really deep cleanse and set that intention of I am cleansing. Yeah. And then you're out of the shower, new day. After anything, if you've just had an anxiety attack or a panic moment, an argument with a friend, anything that's happened that has disrupted your mood, take a shower if you can. And I know if you're at work or you're out, then there can be other things that you can do, like even taking a walk, but have something that's like a transition activity where you can set that intention of I'm resetting. But having a shower, I just find really effective because of the water.
Oh, I love that. So sometimes I think people need the hard truth. And I think this is, once again, why it's so important to sometimes have a coach or therapist or someone close to you who is willing to be a bit more honest with you, because of course we want to hold your hand, but also you need a bit of honesty as well. So you might actually still be trying to control food, or essentially still dieting or restricting in some way. So I bet you two have probably felt similar, sort of reflecting on like previous points in your journey, and you think, I found balance now. I've got total balance now. And then 6 months down the line, you look back again and reflect again and realize actually you were still restricting, or you were still viewing some foods as better than others, or you were still partaking in like negative behaviors and things like that. Obviously, it takes time to find that mental and physical balance. So we never want you to put pressure on yourself to feel like you've got to be recovered like as quickly as possible. Like no one is expecting you to find balance after week 1. There is always room for improvement. And even us sitting here now, there is constantly times where we have to check ourselves or we have to improve on behaviors, because as humans, if you're not evolving, that's not a positive thing either. But if you are still feeling this type of way and you're still binging and you don't feel like anything is improving, opening up to a friend, opening up to a coach or therapist, opening up to a trusted loved one who is maybe able to give you a bit more of an honest perspective, can be like super helpful. For me personally, I thought, I found total balance, but actually I wasn't comfortable having like a normal bagel over like a bagel thin at some points. And that's when I sort of realized, actually I haven't fully got there yet, and that's totally okay. It's just realizing there's always something to work on can be really helpful.
It's about being really honest with yourself. I say this to clients, I think clients find it easier to obviously be honest with us because we make it so obvious that this is a safe and non-judgmental space. But I really try to emphasize that it's so important to be honest with yourself. It's so easy to pretend that certain things aren't happening, or, this is a generalization, but I really like salads at lunchtime. I just really like them, when actually you do want that pizza, but you're convincing yourself that you just really want that salad. Now, obviously, there are situations where you just want that salad, but this is where you have to be really honest with yourself. And I know sometimes kind of facing that truth, looking in the mirror and being honest can be really tough, but that's the only thing that's going to set you free when you're on any growth journey. If you're lying to yourself, you're going to run into problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes like experimenting, obviously this depends on the type of journey you're on and how comfortable you are. But sometimes for me, I just had to say, screw it, and be like, okay, instead of having the lunch that I've made in the fridge, I'm just going to order a Subway. And some days it'd be the best decision I've ever made in my life. Other days I'd be like, actually, I've eaten that now. And I'm like, I didn't really need that. It's a learning curve for the next time. Simple things like that. Just saying yes to experiment sometimes can really be ways to like build that trust between your mind and your body, and like build your own confidence as well.
Yeah, 100%. Life is an experiment. Sorry for interrupting the episode, but we just want to give a very quick shout out to our sponsors, us.
If you're loving this episode and the podcast so far and want to support this podcast further, then head to the link in the show notes and show your appreciation by donating us a coffee. We'd massively appreciate it.
There are also other ways to support us for free, like dropping us a rating and review on whatever platform you're currently listening to us on. If you're watching us on YouTube, then please like and subscribe.
And you can, of course, follow us on Instagram. It's at Rewrite the Rules Pod, and share our podcast with anyone that you think will love it.
We do all offer our own coaching and therapy packages if you would like to work with any of us. All links to those and more info are all once again in the show notes.
Now let's get back to the podcast.
And girls, I don't know as well if you think that this is a reason as to why people still might experience binges, but could still be getting caught in that trap of, I know that events and occasions, nights out, meals out, are something that's very daunting to people in their recovery, and you might unknowingly be saying, oh, don't worry, I'm going to eat before I go out when it's night out, but it could be like something you deem to be okay, but in actual fact it's not meeting your needs and what you need to fuel yourself. And I think we get caught in this trap of always feeling like when we go out for a meal, I don't know if you've heard like your friends say this, or you're like it sometimes, I want to be really, really hungry for that meal because I'll enjoy it more. And look, I think that's okay for a person that doesn't have disordered eating, but with someone that is severely restricting, going into a situation, being faced with foods which are you've considered to be off limits, that's a really difficult position to put yourself in for you not to fall into having a binge. And look, it happened to me. I had binges after nights out, I had those things, but you need to fuel yourself properly, because you can go in to that occasion fueled, and it will make you feel so much more at ease when that food is put to you, or you're standing at that buffet and you're like, I've fueled before this, so it's not making me want to grab for everything, and it's gonna, like you say, give you more clarity of the situation. And you could get yourself a plate of food and you could actually eat it, and hey, you could have that feeling of leaving stuff on the plate and being like, because I fueled myself before, I'm okay now. That might take time, but I just think that's a real factor as to why you may still be experiencing binges.
100%.
Absolutely.
And this is the exact sort of thing that I think people can get in a trap of making these excuses. I'm going to a restaurant tonight, so I want to be really, 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 really hungry. And if that does turn into a binge and you have noticed that pattern, it's not good for your mind, your body, it's not good for your pocket.
No, absolutely.
There's so many times where I've not eaten throughout the day because I just want to be super hungry for this meal, and you just end up spending more money as well.
Loads.
But also going out drinking, especially when I was a little bit younger, I just wouldn't eat all day, because I just did not think that you were allowed as a woman to go out in a skimpy dress to go out clubbing with a full belly. And how ridiculous is that? But me and my friends, we all did it, because I was just I can't have food in my belly. But what did I do instead? All day I'd have a cookie for breakfast, then I'd have some chocolate, then I'd have some crisps. So instead of just giving myself a proper breakfast, a proper lunch and a proper dinner, I was just snacking all day, which in turn was worse for my stomach by the time we got to the evening, because I just hadn't got that balance. But it was never fun, and it's just having to relearn before occasions where I'm drinking alcohol. Actually, it's probably best to have something to eat, was something, it just felt so strange. And it's those things you do subconsciously, and having to rewrite them is really difficult.
Yeah, and in that situation, it's literally listening to your mum's advice, when she always used to say, make sure you lie on that stomach before you go out, and you'd be like, shut up, mum. But it's so true what you were saying there, Beth. It was such a thing. You don't eat before you go on a night out. Why don't you? Why?
No idea.
But all you're thinking of as well, wasn't it, when you were younger, all you were thinking about was the chicken shop after.
Yeah, the kebab shop.
Somebody would end up turning around and going, can we leave now? I really want to get food. Yeah, let's go.
I was that girl, and I was I'm going to go get a burger. Goodbye, everyone.
I'm honestly, the girl that I am now is I eat more before I go out now. I don't really go out that much these days, but I do like a glass of wine. Hello, Lola. Oh, everyone needs to go on YouTube. Yeah, everyone needs to go on YouTube, and at this point, stop listening
right now.
Go on YouTube and look at Lola.
Okay, goodbye. Thank you.
Bye, honey. Oh, I love my
god. So demanding.
My god. But yeah, so I've now evolved into the girl who just eats so much more before I go out, and I just I now enjoy drinking, because I got all this stomach to absorb my alcohol. I meant to say I got all this food to absorb the alcohol, and I don't end up feeling sick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hate that feeling.
And snacks and things as well whilst you're drinking are so much fun. I mainly drink from home now instead of going out clubbing and stuff, but it's so nice being able to have a really nice meal with your friends, and then got all the bowls of crisps and picky bits and snacky bits out, and eating them whilst drinking as well. It's such an enjoyable evening to have.
Red wine, and then warm bread with olive oil and balsamic vinegar.
Okay, right. Tesco do a 3 cheese bread thing. You dip that in. Oh my god, me and Adam eat it all the time. It's delicious.
You just can't beat bread with anything. Warm bread with butter. I have a real thing now. I'm very bad. Salt. I salt my bread.
Really?
I love that.
Once you do it, girls, you will everything. I'm actually really bad with salt. My mum has a go at me all the time, but I even if I make toast, I put salt on, I butter it and put salt on it. That's so bad.
No,
but once you try it, if you get warm bread, a bit of butter, salt on top.
Yeah, chef's kiss. Because
Chef's kiss.
you get the salted butter and it's delicious.
Yeah, love
But
hack. Oh.
yeah, and if you drink, red wine goes perfectly. If you don't drink, then just whatever your favorite bev is. Okay, shall I share some of my tips?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to ask yourself, is your binge eating a coping mechanism in disguise? So you can understand if your binge eating is a coping mechanism if there's certain emotions that you're trying to numb through eating. So if you start to notice that you're starting to feel sad or you're starting to feel anxious and then you're turned into food and then it turns into a binge, that could possibly be a sign that you're using binge eating as a coping mechanism. And there is no shame here, there's no judgment here. That at the time feels like a really good idea, doesn't it? It's, oh, I'm about to feel a bad emotion. Let's try and numb it through something that appears at the time to be fun. Because I think people don't really talk about this as well, but binge eating for a lot of people is actually fun in the moment, not fun afterwards for a lot of people, but even before, during, it's fun.
I really looked forward to it, like you would
same.
a birthday party or something. Like I got really excited to do it.
Same.
We didn't get trapped in it for years because it wasn't initially like a pleasurable experience.
Definitely. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that because it can feel so distressing afterwards. People often think, why the F did I do that? So stupid. I'm so stupid. It's like, okay, let's rewind to the fact that in that moment in time, it felt like a good idea. I'm just saying this because there's no judgment and there's no shame here. But at the same time, if you're using binge eating as a coping mechanism, we also need to be honest with ourselves and recognize that this isn't an effective coping mechanism. Is this helping long term? Is this working for you? If it's not, then this is when we need to turn to more helpful ways to cope with our emotions. And I'm going to share like a few different ways that you can, some different strategies that you can use. First of all, I think it's really important that we can feel comfortable feeling our feelings. The same kind of, I know, similar to what we were saying earlier, I think we catastrophize certain emotions. So we're so scared of feeling anxious, we're so scared of feeling lonely, we're so scared of feeling bored, all of these things. Why don't you experiment and allow yourself to feel these feelings and realize that these feelings won't kill you. They pass. This too shall pass. And it's just waiting it out. And, that's how emotions work. They're up and down and up and down. Let's use anxiety, for example. When we have severe anxiety, it feels like this will last forever. But actually, the way anxiety normally works is that it peaks and then it drops again. So give yourself permission to just feel those feelings, sit in that discomfort and wait for that storm to pass, because it does pass. But in terms of some other practical coping mechanisms that you can turn to, journaling. I know everyone talks about journaling, but allowing yourself to get everything that's in your mind just on paper. Just get it out. There's no judgment. If you want to honestly aggressively write to get the frustration out, do that. But I really, really recommend just getting whatever is in your mind just out, putting it to paper. Something else you can try is meditation. Go to YouTube and type in 5-minute meditation, 10-minute meditation. You're going to get loads of results. These days, you can honestly, any meditation you want, meditation to calm down, meditation for self-love, meditation for this, meditation for that. You can find it on YouTube and it's free. And you can even pick what duration you want. So try meditating, experiment, see if you like it. And then in terms of other practical tools, speaking about it, you don't have to hold it in. You don't need to keep this a secret with yourself if you're struggling. You can text a friend, call a friend, but it's so important that you're not just keeping it just inside you and it's just building up and you're feeling even just more alone and more ashamed. Just talking about it. And, I love sending voice notes, as you both know. We all do.
We love it all, don't we?
Yeah. And even if your friend isn't available at that time, send a voice note to a friend. You may even feel better. I think a lot of the times when we're asking for help and we want to talk to someone about something, we're not necessarily seeking their advice. We're just wanting them to listen. So actually, the fact of you just voice noting a friend can actually, you might actually just feel better afterwards, even though they haven't even listened to it yet, because you've verbalized what's going on.
And just like having a brain dump, like you can do, like that's literally what I do. I just start recording. Poor Harriet got like an 18-minute long one this morning, and it just getting everything that's on your brain off can be such a positive feeling, and just so beneficial. When you're hearing us talk, you probably think, and that's not going to have much of an impact, but it actually does if you start doing it. In terms of extreme hunger and how to sort of start dealing with that, the one tip I'd give, because it was the one mistake that I made at the start of my journey, is don't aim for a set amount of calories, because no amount is too much. When I was like, right, I'm going to increase my food, and I'm like, right, I'm literally going to double my calorie intake, that is going to be more than enough, is what I thought. But it wasn't. But because I'd set myself that like certain amount of calories, you know, I'd reached it, thought, okay, I've done it now, I'm accomplished, I'm going to do this for the next couple of weeks, and then I'm going to be fixed. And actually, it still wasn't enough food for me. But because I'd put that calorie amount on it, you know, and you can go on Instagram and you can see how much everyone's eating. I was eating like way more than anyone else was. So I already felt very insecure about that. I already felt shame over that as well. And this is the problem with numbers in general and calories, and like still being attached to calories in recovery. Some of these things you have literally just got to throw out the window and just say adios, even if it's uncomfortable. You are only limiting yourself, or that's how I felt. I limited myself by doing this. So don't set yourself any amount of calories, because no amount is going to be too much.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in the box.
Yes.
And also getting rid of triggers. So you've got to think of things like, if weighing yourself triggers you to feel bad about yourself, which can then bring on, this is in terms of binges or even restricting food, which is going to lead to extreme hunger. Remove that, or try and work on reducing stepping on the scale. If you have a mirror in which you always body check, maybe just try walking past that. Or, you know, if you find that too hard, cutting down on how many times, because, you know, body checking can have such a negative impact. Social media, on following certain accounts. So getting rid of those triggers, and also I think knowing your triggers. So for me, in terms of trying to help with my binges, I had to know what were situations in which I felt would cause me to feel anxious around food. So like I say, buffets for me, like parties, was my thing. So I'd write that down. You know, going for brunch was another thing, write that down. And because I know they are, I'm walking into that situation knowingly. And also I'm saying to myself, I'm going to tackle one trigger at a time. Because if you're just literally facing everything head on all at once, you're going to be so overwhelmed. And I think it's just setting yourself up. It's not always being super, you know, aware of, oh my God, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. It's just knowing that I want to work on one thing at a time.
I love that. It's always about slowing it down and thinking about it more.
Yeah. That's the secret to life, I've realised.
Any issue.
Yeah, just cut down your to-do list, slow down, relax, you'll be fine.
Just linking that quickly to when you're actually eating. Practicing mindful eating was such an important tool for me, especially at the start. Removing your phone, removing your laptop, turning the TV off. You know, some people sometimes find it helpful listening to like podcasts or music and having like a distraction when eating, just to tackle like fear foods and things like that. But if you are trying to get back in tune with your body, with all the signals, slowing it down, being, you know, focus on the texture and like the taste and how much you're enjoying it. And that's why it's always obviously important as well to just eat the foods that you absolutely love, so that it's an like eating is an enjoyable experience. Like it's such a wonderful thing we get to experience on a daily basis. Taking a spoonful and then putting your fork back down, eating really quickly and being completely distracted whilst you're doing it was something that I kept, unfortunately, doing for a very long time, and it didn't benefit me at all. So like slowing things down was like the best thing that I ever did.
Yeah, it's because there's been like studies done. There's lapse between when your brain has registered that you've eaten something after you've actually physically had something to eat. But when you're, let's say, watching TV, for example, and eating really fast, then your brain takes a really long time to register that you've eaten something. Yeah. So actually eating really slowly is so incredibly helpful and so powerful. Even try, if you after listening to this podcast, your next meal, really try to eat so slowly, and just you'll see how beneficial it is and how quickly you start to recognize your fullness cues, and you recognize that your brain's registered, oh, you've eaten. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, even, a quick question to ask yourself, have you ever picked up 2 biscuits to go eat them and then look back down? You've eaten one, we thought you'd eaten one, look back down, I thought, where's the second biscuit gone? I did that so often, like, with like whole packs of Oreos, I'd have demolished them and be like, well, I only ate like 3 of them. Where's the rest of them gone? If you experience that, that is like a quick signal to tell you, actually, maybe, once in a while's fine, but like if this is consistent and food is disappearing, and you're like, who's eating that? And it's you. Yeah. Maybe if you just slow it down, and just like sit down, like try not to like eat on the go or eat standing up, things like that. It's definitely important.
100%. Another really good point is to introduce gentle nutrition. It's something about, I don't know if you girls probably know about it, but I've only recently become aware of this term, and I love it. And I want to do a whole episode on it. But essentially it's understanding nutrition, understanding the foods that are, that are good for your brain, are good for your digestive system, all of that, and pairing it with also the food that you just love, regardless of the nutrition. So having almost your diet consist of foods that are really good for you, like factually we know that they've got a lot of nutrition in, and then the foods that you just absolutely love because they just feed your soul. And so it's like gentle nutrition. You're meeting both needs, your actual needs and then your wants. And it's just chef's kiss. I'd love to do a whole episode on gentle nutrition.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I think we should.
But I think that is a natural progression, isn't it, though? Like, I think even though we didn't know what it was called, we have experienced that with like, okay, I'm going to eat this because I know it's going to make me feel amazing, but I'm going to eat this because mentally, like, I absolutely love it. And that's definitely something to sort of be saved for maybe like towards the end of your journey. And what you'll realise is there's so many stages. I hope that by us explaining them, you feel like more validated in every single stage.
And can I just share one last one with everyone? I think that if you have had a binge, no restriction afterwards, because I know what happens. You have a binge at night and you wake up in the morning and you think, I consumed a lot of calories last night. And we can do that, quite far into our recovery. If we've had a binge, we will go, I'll have something, I'll just have like an apple for breakfast. No, that's not fuel. I'll just have a coffee. It's not fuel. Then you are getting back on that merry-go-round. You're getting back on that cycle of what's going to happen. You have that apple. What's going to happen when you get to lunchtime? You are going to be really hungry, and then it's probably going to happen again. So the biggest tip that I can give anyone is, if you have a binge, fuel yourself the next day. And literally, I remember telling someone this, and they turned around and they were like, that tip, like, I would never think of doing that, and that's so crazy that I wouldn't. But I think in general life, you hear it a lot. I ate a lot last night, so I'm just going to eat little tomorrow. It just doesn't work, and it's not going to build trust with your mind and your body.
Absolutely. And I think that surprises people though, doesn't it? I think when you tell people, when they're like, oh my God, I binged last night, what do I do? They want a game plan. They want you to be like, this, and this, do it tomorrow, bam, done. So when you say, actually do nothing, carry on as normal, carry on with your normal routine, you do not have to change anything, just continue, they feel a bit like, oh, this feels weird, uncomfortable, I feel like I should be doing something. It's like definitely a hurdle people have to get past.
People honestly treat it like an emergency, a national crisis, and it's not. You need to do nothing. You just need to continue and you will be fine.
Keep calm, carry on.
We're here to tell you, you will be fine.
You will.
Honestly, it's been in our faces this whole time. Keep calm and carry on.
Everyone,
that's what this episode should be called.
Stop flapping and just keep calm and carry on.
If you take anything from this podcast.
But it was so nice having us all back together, wasn't it?
It so was.
Absolutely, I've
I
loved
love
it.
Just a heads up, guys, we're not going to be all together for a couple of weeks because Natalie is sunning it up from tomorrow, and then I'm sunning it up the week after.
Yeah.
Italy. So
it's holiday season, girls.
yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah. So sorry, guys,
Yeah.
but
and also for anybody listening, this is coming from 3 girls who probably would really fear going on holiday, or even to the point of I used to say I don't want to go on holiday because I would fear being out of my comfort zone. And all 3 of us are showing you, look, from where we were to where we are now, going on holiday and enjoying foods, it's possible. So again, there's a little light at the end of the tunnel for you all.
Again, keep calm, carry on. You don't need to change anything just because you're going on holiday. You just do nothing.
Yeah.
How insightful. Just do nothing.
So helpful.
If you want to sign up for us, you know where we are.
Join up with me and you have to do nothing.
So funny.
But thank you, girls, for that. I think anyone listening, we again just hope that you've got something and you can take away something to put into practice. And yeah, we will be back again next week. Obviously, I won't, but I'll be so excited to listen as a listener. So yeah.
Amazing. We're going to miss you, Nat.
Absolutely.
I miss you too. I'll be listening and I'll be with you in spirit.
I love that. But thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.